talking Iowa State Cyclones today on Sharpen the Point. 2024, it was an 11-3 record, a new high watermark for the program in a long line of winning seasons, falling in that conference title game but bouncing back in the bowl game with a big win over Miami. Head coach Matt Campbell, he enters his 10th season, looks entrenched here, doubt he wants to leave, and seems like he's going to be here for as long as he wants to be. Quarterback-wise, if anyone's previously listened to any of the podcasts that I've done over the last couple of years or watched the Heisman Long Shots video, they know I have no problem waxing poetic about Rocco Becht. He is one of, if not my favorite player to watch in all of college football. I bring him up any chance I get, so I'm extremely excited to talk about him now. He improved in his second season as the starter, gaining 3,500 yards passing and 25 touchdowns, while showing mobility by adding over 300 yards rushing and another 8 touchdowns, including one game where he had over 90 yards and really put the team on his back trying to win that game and willed them to victory. He makes good decisions on where to go with the ball and utilizes his arm talent to drop balls in the bucket while making off-platform throws, something I think he doesn't get enough credit for. And the place where he needs to improve most is accuracy on those throws outside the numbers. I think he's getting better there. He just is he makes slightly too many mistakes in that area. An improvement there is really going to help limit the errors where he had 4 pick sixes last year, and that was the primary cause of it. But ultimately, his accuracy between the hashes is some of the best in the country. He could put it on a dime in between those hash marks on time and in the chest, and it gives that good yak afterward, and we saw that with Jalen Noel last year. For me, I just love his moxie that he plays with. It includes the 4 game-winning drives in the final 2 minutes last year, and he reminds me a ton of Baker Mayfield on the field. He's got that swagger, that moxie. He can will you to a victory. He's very similar in that aspect for me. This system here, it's absolutely perfect for him, and while his weapons to throw to have changed this season, he's going to be able to elevate those new ones and get the most out of them. Running back-wise, it was a committee approach between Carson Hansen, Abu Sama, and Jalen Jackson that altogether produced solid numbers with none standing out other than the fact that Hansen finished with 13 touchdowns on the year. They did combine for only 2 100-yard games individually, and to me, they were a relative disappointment. I know they were an upgrade over what you got the year before, but there just weren't those standout performances. They were just kind of a collective that produced enough. Maybe it was, for me, I expected Sama to be a dominant force. That 276-3 snow game against Kansas State just made my expectations probably too high for him. And Sama looked soft most of the year for me. He just kind of didn't run with that same physicality and burst that I thought I would see out of him, and it led to Hansen ended up leading the room and just snaking all those touchdowns. Hansen and Sama are both going to return. I think they lead the backfield in a committee approach again, and they have a ton of inexperienced youth behind them. Maybe somebody emerges from that group, but the likelihood is that the top 2 are really going to soak up the touches that Jackson had a year ago, and hopefully they're more explosive on a per-touch basis to complement Rocco here. Pass catching wise, there was an extremely clear top 2 at wide receiver with Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. They soaked up all of the targets in this offense, 2/3 of them to be exact, over 2/3. Noel was absolutely a bulldog on the field. He was the epitome of toughness, and then Higgins provided a bigger physical threat on the outside. They split the targets evenly on their way to identical seasons with over 80 catches, nearly 1,200 yards, and 8 touchdowns for Noel, 9 for Higgins. They were just complementary pieces that worked to perfection. To say I'm concerned about the prospect of replacing them would be an understatement, as they were the entire pass game for this team, with no other wide receiver having more than 141 yards and 1 touchdown on the season, and that just underscores their dominance of the targets here. Matt Campbell and staff, though, they've been through this before, replacing talent on the outside with new guys, and the portal helps in this era to restock faster without those growing pains of young players needing time to develop. And I think they did a nice job here. Chase Soule, he comes from East Carolina. He's my pick for the top option in this offense. He has the size at 6'4" to replicate what Higgins, Allen Lazard, and Xavier Hutchinson have done previously in this offense. And Soule has produced back-to-back seasons over 600 yards and a solid 19.9 yards per catch last year showcases his deep ball ability. He's a prototypical wide receiver with his ability to high point the ball and make catches in traffic while adding in some run after the catch ability. I think he immediately slots in as the top guy here. Xavier Townsend, he comes over from UCF. He does not have the proven production that Soul brings with him, but he did play in a run-based offense under Gus Malzahn, and he had an NFL-caliber wide receiver in kid who went to the Javon Baker, blocking his path to production. Townsend is a burner. He had that twitchiness that can lead to big plays after catch, like RPOs, little slants. He can get after it there. He's going to be a good fit in that. And while each of those guys is, he's new to the program, but Xavier Townsend's not starting at the beginning of his relationship with Rocco. They've known each other for a number of years, and Becht was lobbying him to join the team for the last couple of seasons. Not quite tampering because it wasn't the staff, it was a player. Time's going to tell how he fits into this mix, though. And then the wild card in this room is Daniel Jackson. He's struggled to stay healthy enough to contribute for the last year or two. If he can remain on the field and make those flashes of brilliance, he has shown previously more commonplace, then he could work his way into a reliable third option. However, if he can't return to form, then it's going to be much of the same we saw last year with the top two soaking up targets. And I think the tight ends are going to be more heavily involved this season. Speaking of tight end, Gabe Burkle and Ben Bramer, they return as the top two in the room. Burkle had a nice late season emergence over the final 7 games of the year as the third option in this past game, although he did finish with just under 300 yards and 1 touchdown. That does give him a leg up to start the season, but Bramer, he did not get a chance to shine last year as a leg injury. Had him out, out for the season midway through it. He's now healthy. I think he's a top candidate to be a top pass-catching weapon here, especially early in the season when they're breaking in these new wideouts. I'd expect to see plenty of 12 personnel so that Burkle and Bramer can be on the field together with the 2 transfer wide receivers. Offensive line-wise, the line left plenty of room for improvement, especially in their run blocking, as I felt the backs struggled a little bit to get downfield before first contact. The right side was the weaker of the sides, with both the right guard Brendan Black and right tackle Tyler Miller do return to those spots, so I would hope that they are improved with that experience under their belt now. And their top 2 linemen depart in the form of center Jared Huford and left tackle Jalen Travis. They didn't do hardly anything in the portal, so they're really putting their eggs in the basket of player development on that current roster. Right tackle Miller, he started 38 consecutive games. He's solid in pass protection. I think improvement on his ground play is going to be a huge benefit to this offense. And then Black, he has plenty of experience under his belt. He has 20 starts at that spot at right guard. So he should be well positioned to have his best season yet. He brings physicality to this unit, and he has a unique ability to adapt and communicate across the line, which is going to be helpful for them. At center, Jim Boniface, he's going to return to that starting role he held in 2023 after being a backup for much of last season. He brings a wealth of experience and a proven track record there, so you got to be confident in that replacement. And then on the left side, left guard is a competition for me between 2 former starters, and Dylan Barrett and Trevor Burr. Barrett started all 8 games when he was available last season, and then Burr started in his stead to close out the year, so both each had starting experience a year ago. I think Burr's a breakout candidate, and he's really emerging throughout this offseason. He's a guy that could look to break through into this lineup. James Neal, he's going to move to left tackle after starting 20 games over the last 2 seasons. He's the most versatile guy on this unit. He spent time at tackle and guard last year, and he was the starter at left tackle in 2023, so he's moving back home. The versatility is something this staff really values. They are all moving parts along this line. Black has been training at center with an eye towards being able to get Burr in the lineup for me. Along the D-line, the front 3 was solid individually. They do lose 2 key pieces to graduation and Tyler Onyedum to the portal, leaving young players and transfers that need to step up now. They need to get better at getting home and finishing sacks on the quarterback. They finished dead last in the conference with only 16 last year. So that's going to be an area of key improvement we're going to have to see early in the season. Dominique Orange, he's going to anchor the middle of this defense after an all-conference season where he did not play a full complement of snaps. He's one of their best interior linemen in the country. I think he's got a world of talent. He's worked hard on his conditioning in the offseason so that he could be on the field more often while being impactful on those snaps. They're looking to get 60 to 65% of the snaps out of Orange. That is a wealth of snaps for a D-tackle. Ike Ezeagu, he saw limited action a year ago, but I think he steps into a bigger role at defensive end. He had a very strong offseason in spring. The staff believes he's going to be a breakout candidate this year. And then 3 transfers are going to contribute to this rotation right away. And Cannon Butler of Northern Iowa, Von Troy Malone from Tulsa, and Tamatoa Madonna from Yale. Butler was a team captain at Northern Iowa. He brings length at 6'6" and a good motor. That's really going to make him a valuable rotation piece here. Malone's a physical edge. He sets it well. He's shown flashes of being a disruptive force. He just needs to be more consistent to be a top-end contributor for these guys. And then McDonough, he's the most intriguing guy for me. He led the Ivy League in sacks with 6.5. And even though he was at a lower level, he does provide a spark and proven ability to get after the quarterback. Linebacker-wise, the second level of this defense was just a medical unit last year. I mean, they were plagued by injuries. They spent more time at the doctor and on the training table than they did on the field. That led to it underperforming expectations, which cost the defense a chance at maintaining its usual level of play. The best news is they survived it with that record, and 9 of the 11 guys who played or would have played returned to a room that now has much more experience than it would have. An injury in the opening game to Caleb Bacon was the most impactful, as he is the star of this group. He's going to slot right back into that starting spot that he vacated. Will McLaughlin, he seems likely to join Bacon in this starting lineup. And I think the last spot's kind of up in the air, as it could really be either of Cooper Ebel or Carson Willich. I'm personally leaning Willich in that competition, even though Ebel had a solid season while playing through a separated shoulder. Campbell noted that when Willich is on the field, it's just a different team, as he's a great leader for this program. The good news here is they have plenty of depth and experience to rotate guys in based upon the situation and matchup. And what was a unit that others had to cover for is now going to be the one that uplifts this defense this season. Defensive back-wise, the secondary was a clear strength of the defense last year, as it masked the deficiency of that linebacker core and managed to hold up even though they had to cover for long periods of time as the lines struggled to get home. They lose 4 of the top 6 from this unit, but they do bring back a shutdown corner in Jontez Williams and a vocal leader in Jeremiah Cooper. Williams earned second-team all-conference honors after getting 4 interceptions in a breakout season. He's now emerging as a mentor and vocal presence in the locker room, and he's going to be joined by Trey Bell from Lindenwood on the outside. He appeared in 20 games over the last 2 seasons. He's going to look to make this transition smoothly. His 6'2" frame gives him the ability to play press coverage and mirror receivers downfield. Bell's going to be targeted early and often as teams look to stay away from Williams, though. At safety, Cooper, he returns as a 3-year starter. He's been all-conference in each of them. He's going to be joined by some combination of Jamison Patton, Tayshawn James, and Marcus Neal. Each of them received valuable playing time as underclassmen a year ago because of injuries. James made the most impact with 2 starts last season, but I think Neal had that monster bowl game, and that's going to give him a real leg up to see the field. All of them are going to be on it plenty. They're just going to be a part of a rotation. Looking at the schedule and outlook, I'm always going to be a believer in a Beck-led offense. The backs are not inspiring for me personally. The wideouts are brand new, but I'm high on those transfer receivers, specifically Soul. And the tight end are going to pick up some of that slack. Rocco can uplift everyone on this side of the ball to be their best, and I think they continue to play well. On defense, they have playmakers at all 3 levels in Orange, Bacon, and Cooper. A boatload of talent at linebacker to believe in. The losses on the back end are going to be tough to replace, but they should have a front 7 that's solid enough and can cover for some of those deficiencies. Kansas State to start out. That's a week 0 game in Ireland. I have no clue why they are playing this big of a matchup on outside of the States. But this is a coin flip game. It's an important game to start the year for both teams. It could end up being a decisive game come the end of the season as to who's playing in that Big 12 championship. South Dakota, nice easy win. Iowa, Cyhawk game's always tough. I'm going to lean on a loss here. I think they've improved a ton. I think they're getting good quarterback play out of Gronowski. I hate to say that, but I think I lean Iowa here. At Arkansas State, once again, why the heck are you playing this game on the road? I don't understand it. You're too big of a program to be playing this road game. That's a win, but don't schedule road games at Arkansas State. That's just dumb. Arizona, win. At Cincinnati's a win for me. At Colorado, I'm leaning win. I think Rocco wills them to victory there. BYU with no Retzlaff is a win. Arizona State's a coin flip game for me. If anything, I'll lean a little bit loss, but that's a fun quarterback matchup. That's one of the better quarterback matchups in the country with Levitt and Rocco. At TCU, I would lean win. I think they lack a run game. They're more of a pass-based team. If this secondary rounds into form by that point, I feel pretty good. But once again, they're going to be able to sling the rock with Hoover and those weapons on the outside. So that's a careful game. Watch out there. Kansas, I'll lean win. I think Jalen Daniels, you never know if he's going to make it this far in the season. At Oklahoma State, they're probably improved, but they were awful last year. That's a win. The schedule's manageable as they get nearly all of the toughest games at home or a neutral site like Ireland. And there is no Baylor, Texas Tech, or Utah on here, which is 3 of the better teams in the conference. The floor should really be 8 wins, and even if they drop 2 of the first 3, they have upside for double-digit wins if everything breaks their way. Just chalk me up as somebody who's likely to be high on this team, but I'm going to back my guy Rocco and his intangibles to get the job done here.